When Grandpa passed away, I thought I'd lost the last person who truly understood me. He wasn't just family, he was my anchor. We used to sit on his porch every Sunday, sipping iced tea, while he told me about the Carter estate, the land he'd built from scratch. He used to smile and say, "One day, Angelina, this place will be yours." Those words stayed with me. Through college, through heartbreaks, through every uncertain chapter, that promise felt like home waiting for me. So when his lawyer called after the funeral saying Grandpa had left me something important, I already knew what it was: the family estate. The drive there took 3 hours, but it felt shorter. The countryside rolled by in golden light, and every mile made my heart race faster. I kept picturing the old white farmhouse, the one Grandpa used to describe as our family heartbeat. When I finally turned down the gravel road, the air felt heavy with nostalgia. But when I pulled up, my smile faded. The front gate had a brand new lock. The lawn was trimmed too perfectly, and there was a silver car parked in the driveway, a car I'd never seen before. My stomach tightened. Maybe it was a caretaker or one of the estate managers. Still, something felt wrong. I stepped out, dust crunching beneath my shoes, and knocked on the door. It opened halfway, and a woman, maybe in her 40s, looked at me like I was the intruder. "Can I help you?" I blinked, unsure how to answer. "Yes, I'm Angelina Carter. This is my grandfather's house." Her eyebrows rose slightly. "Oh, you must be mistaken." "Excuse me?" She leaned on the doorframe, calm and confident. "I bought this property 2 years ago from Mr. Carter himself." For a second, I forgot to breathe. "That's not possible," I said, my voice shaking. "My grandfather never sold this house. He left it to me." She curved into a polite smile. "Maybe you should check your paperwork." I could feel my heartbeat in my ears. The woman's tone wasn't cruel, just certain, like she believed every word. I muttered a quick apology and stepped back, staring at the porch boards under my feet. The paint was new, the windows replaced. Even the door handle was different. Everything familiar was gone. I walked back to my car in a daze, fumbling through my bag for the lawyer's letter. It clearly said, Angelina Carter, beneficiary of the Carter family estate, 422 Maple Hill Road. The same address, the same property. So how could a stranger be living there? I called the lawyer immediately. "Mr. Benson, I'm at the estate, but someone else is living here. She says she bought it from my grandfather." Silence. Then a low sigh. "That can't be right, Angelina. The property records show transfer to your name pending probate." "Well, something's wrong. She has a deed." He promised to look into it, but that night I couldn't sleep. I sat in my car at a roadside motel, staring at the flickering neon light outside, replaying the woman's calm voice in my head. Bought it 2 years ago. 2 years ago, when Grandpa was still living there. Why would he sell it and never tell me? Something didn't add up. The more I thought about it, the stranger it became. He'd written to me just last year about the roses blooming near the porch, as if he was still living there. Had he been lying to me? Or had someone lied to him? I didn't know it then, but what I was about to uncover would change everything I thought I knew about my family and my grandfather. The next morning, I was waiting outside Mr. Benson's law office before it even opened. The little brass sign on the door said, "Benson & Co., Family Law since 1954. Inside, the smell of coffee and old paper filled the air. I'd known Mr. Benson since I was a kid. Grandpa trusted him like family. So why did it suddenly feel like I was walking into a stranger's office? He looked surprised to see me. "Angelina, I went over the documents again last night," he said, motioning for me to sit. "There's no record of your grandfather selling that property. According to our files, he owned it until his death and left it to you." I nodded slowly. "Then how does she have a deed?" Mr. Benson adjusted his glasses. "That's what I'm trying to figure out. He pulled a folder from his desk and flipped through a stack of photocopies. There was a property reassessment 2 years ago, but it's signed by your grandfather and someone named Margaret Hale. I froze. Margaret Hale? Yes, he said. Does that name mean anything to you? No, I've never heard of her. He handed me the document. My hands trembled as I read Grandpa's looping signature, and beside it, a woman's neat cursive. Margaret Hale. The name felt wrong somehow, too official, too practiced. She's the woman living there now, I said, quietly. Benson frowned. Then she wasn't just some random buyer. She was involved with your grandfather somehow. I left the office with a copy of the reassessment and a knot in my stomach. The sun was bright outside, but I barely noticed. My grandfather, the man who'd promised me that home, had signed something with a woman I'd never heard of. Why? I couldn't let it go. I needed answers. That afternoon, I drove to Grandpa's storage unit on the edge of town. The key still hung on my keychain, a small, rusted reminder of summers spent helping him move boxes there. The air inside was thick with dust and the faint scent of cedar. I switched on the lights, and there it was, rows of boxes marked personal. One of them had his handwriting, Estate Papers 2022. I opened it carefully. Inside were folders, envelopes, old receipts with both of their names on them, and something else, a stack of letters tied with a faded blue ribbon. My heart skipped. They were addressed to M.H. Margaret Hale? I untied the ribbon and unfolded one of the letters. Grandpa's handwriting leapt off the page. Margaret, I trust you completely. Keep the papers safe. She'll understand one day. I felt my throat tighten. Who was she? Me? My mother? Someone else? I read another one. This time, the words made my chest ache. I can't tell Angelina yet. She still believes the estate will be hers, but you and I know the truth about what's buried there. I dropped the letter. The sound echoed in the empty room. My hands were shaking, but I picked it up again, staring at the line that changed everything. What's buried there? What could that mean? I spent the next hour digging through the rest of the box. More letters, old photographs, bank statements with both of their names on them, and then, at the bottom, a single sealed envelope addressed to me. Grandpa's writing. My name underlined twice. I hesitated, then tore it open. Inside was a short note. Angelina, if you're reading this, then the truth has already started to unravel. Trust your instincts, not the papers. My pulse quickened. The note was signed with his initials, J.C., and dated only a week before he passed. Trust your instincts, not the papers. What was he trying to tell me? That the sale was fake? That someone forged his signature? I stepped out of the storage unit, clutching the note like it was the only thing keeping me upright. The sun was setting, the sky streaked in orange and purple. I looked toward the distant hills, toward the house that should have been mine. Whatever Grandpa had hidden, Margaret Hale was part of it, and I was done waiting for answers. The next day started like any other, but I felt different, sharper, wired, like every sound around me had a hidden meaning. I had Grandpa's note in my pocket, the paper soft from being folded and unfolded all night. Trust your instincts, not the papers. Those words wouldn't leave me alone. So I decided to start digging, quietly. My first stop was the county records office. A fluorescent maze and beige folders, old computers, and the faint buzz of air conditioning. The clerk at the counter barely looked up when I asked for records under the name Margaret Hale. She asked, "Do you have a birth date?" I said, "No, just around my grandfather's age, maybe." She sighed and typed slowly. "There are 3 Margaret Hales registered in this county. Which one are you looking for?" I hesitated. "Give me the oldest file." She handed me a printed sheet. Margaret Louise Hale, born 1946. Address? 422 Maple Hill Road. My pulse spiked. That was Grandpa's estate address, the one I thought was mine. I whispered, "That can't be right." The clerk shrugged. "That's what's on record. Been there since 1985. I walked out of that office in a daze, sunlight flashing across the windshield as I got into my car. Margaret Hale had lived at the estate since 1985, but Grandpa only bought it in 1990, so she'd been there before him. The thought made my skin crawl. Who was she really? A tenant? A caretaker? Or something more? I drove to the town library next. The librarian, Mrs. Parker, remembered me from when I used to come there with Grandpa. She smiled warmly, then noticed my expression. "You all right, dear?" I said, "Just looking for old property records, anything on the Carter estate." She nodded and led me to the microfilm archives, the hum of the machine filling the silence. I scrolled through yellowed newspaper pages, scanning headlines. Then one caught my eye. Local heiress missing. Margaret Hale, 27, disappears after family dispute. My heart skipped. The date? 1973. I leaned closer. The grainy photograph showed a young woman with soft curls and eyes that looked strangely familiar. It was her, the same face I'd seen at the door of my grandfather's house. But the article said she'd been missing for 50 years. My hands trembled as I printed the page. A missing heiress who'd vanished decades ago, now living in my grandfather's estate, under her real name. I whispered to myself, "Grandpa, what did you do?" The air in the library suddenly felt heavier. Back in my car, I pulled out Grandpa's letters. I reread the line, "You and I know the truth about what's buried there." Buried. Maybe not a secret in the ground, maybe a secret from the past. I searched her name online, scrolling through forgotten family records, and there it was again. Margaret Hale, heir to the Whitmore fortune. My breath caught. The Whitmores had been the family that sold the estate to Grandpa in 1990. My grandfather didn't buy the estate from a company. He bought it from her, the woman who had disappeared years earlier. But how could he buy property from someone declared missing? I looked back at the article. The last person seen with her before she vanished was listed as a close friend, John Carter, my grandfather. For a long moment, I just sat there, staring out at the road ahead. Everything I thought I knew about him, the man who raised me, the man who promised me that house, began to unravel. He hadn't just known Margaret Hale, he'd known her for decades. And somehow, their lives had been tied together long before I was born. I didn't know whether to feel betrayed or heartbroken. Maybe both. But I wasn't giving up. Grandpa wanted me to find the truth, and I was closer than ever. I started the engine, gripping the wheel tight. The sky had turned pale gray, the kind of color that warned rain was coming. I looked at the photo of Margaret from the article again. The same eyes, the same calm smile. A missing heiress living in my grandfather's home, and a past neither of them ever wanted anyone to find. By the time I reached the estate again, dusk had fallen over the hills. The gravel road shimmered under the headlights like a trail back into the past. I didn't come for a fight. I came for answers. Grandpa's note, the letters, the newspaper article, they all pointed to one thing. Whatever truth he'd buried here, it was waiting for me. The house looked different at night. Quiet, almost gentle. I parked near the gate and walked up slowly, clutching the folder of documents. When I reached the porch, the front light flicked on. The door opened, and there she was, Margaret Hale. Her expression softened when she saw the papers in my hands. She said softly, "You found them." Not a question, a statement. I took a breath. I found the letters, the articles, the old records. Her eyes glistened in the porch light. "Then I guess it's time you knew everything." She stepped aside, letting me in. The house smelled faintly of cedar and something floral, like my grandfather's old cologne mixed with roses. We sat across from each other in the living room, and for a moment, the silence felt heavier than words. "You knew him before I was born," I said quietly. She nodded. "Long before. I met John when I was 20. My family didn't approve, not because of him, but because of me. I was supposed to inherit the Whitmore estate. My parents wanted control. John wanted me to be free." Her voice trembled slightly. "We tried to run away together. When my family found out, they disowned me. I disappeared, officially." She looked at her hands. "John thought it was safer that way." The room tilted a little as I processed her words. "So, the missing person story," she said, "wasn't what it looked like. I left everything behind, including my name. John bought the estate from my parents under his name, so they wouldn't trace it back to me. It was our secret home, our second chance." Her eyes met mine, calm and sad. "But you came along, and everything changed." My throat tightened. "He told me stories about this house for years." "Because he wanted you to love it. He wanted to pass it to you, but not through the lies of the past. Before he died, he told me, 'Make sure Angelina gets the truth, not just the deed.'" Her voice cracked. "He couldn't bring himself to tell you that he'd built his life on someone else's name. He wanted to leave you something pure." I stared at the photos on the mantel, pictures of my grandfather smiling beside a woman whose face was younger, softer, but unmistakable. Margaret. They weren't just linked by the estate. They were each other's history. He wrote, "Trust your instincts, not the papers," I said quietly. She smiled faintly, "Because the papers would tell you this place belonged to me. But the truth is, it belongs to both of us." I kept it running after he passed, just like he asked, "Waiting for you." For the first time in days, my chest loosened. The confusion, the anger, the grief, all of it blended into something gentler. Understanding. Grandpa hadn't betrayed me. He'd been protecting a woman he loved, and the legacy he wanted me to inherit wasn't land, but honesty. She stood and handed me a small wooden box. Inside was a photo of the two of them standing on the porch, young and fearless. On the back, in his handwriting, were 6 words. "Our truth lives through her now." I pressed the picture to my chest and smiled through tears. We walked outside together. The night air was cool, and the stars shimmered above the fields. "He wanted you to have this place," Margaret said softly. "And now it's finally yours." I looked at the house, our house, and whispered, "Thank you, Grandpa, for everything." As I stood there under the wide open sky, I finally understood what he meant. Some inheritances aren't measured in money or deeds. They're measured in truth, love, and the courage to uncover both. And for the first time, the Carter estate truly felt like home.